Welcome to Power Moves with Amaya, and this is the very first podcast of doing moves, making moves, okay? And I'm very honored to kick this series off with interviewing my grandfather, Shadell Newsom, and my auntie, Tiara Flynn. And today we're talking about legacy, leadership, and marketing across generations. Again, my name is Amaya Eden. Y'all probably know me already because Shondell, he's like my marketer. So he's posting me all the time and he does my marketing for me. But I'm just here to introduce myself and tell my story this time. So, Shondell.
All right.
I'm not
gonna use your nickname, but
yeah, please don't. And don't use mine either. Thank you.
Again, we are in
a professional setting.
Yes.
Thank you.
Please, let's keep it.
Appreciate it.
We'll keep it.
He's gonna slip up.
We'll keep it fresh, funky fresh.
Okay. So you being the first generation, actually, your father, Bobby Newsom.
Well, yeah. Well, my father. Well, what happened is when I was at Station Casinos, I was working there and doing marketing and branding for them. I left them and started working on Newsom Marketing 2 to 3 years before I opened it. I actually opened the firm once my father figured out what it was and what was going on. He became my partner. And he was very excited to become my partner. But my father did start the generational wealth by buying a brownstone in Brooklyn. We didn't know at that time that's what that was, but he started the discussions around wealth generation. He was a landlord, and he had a vision of building and putting in laundromats throughout Brooklyn. So he started with some of the thought process, things like that. And then when I started, he was really surprised that we could actually make money giving people advice. He's like, "Boy, you don't do nothing. You just sit here and talk to people." So it was a good thing for him to become my first investor. He decided after we had started that he could invest, and he didn't want to just be an honorary member or honorary owner. He wanted to put skin in the game. So he made our first initial, and he was my first investment and my first business partner from that standpoint.
Wow. So he got you have your wheels turning on thinking generational long term.
Well, he did that with all of us. I mean, my father grew up in the projects in Brooklyn. We grew up in a neighborhood called Bed-Stuy. It was, nicknamed Do or Die because most of the statistics say that only 2 out of every black male makes it out of Bed-Stuy. And when I was growing up there, it was interesting because that was a fact. There was a lot of, I would say that a lot of people died from street violence, crack cocaine in the 80s when I was there. The AIDS epidemic that most people don't talk about, that hit heavy. The ground zero always seemed to be New York City. So a lot of my friends and family members and folks were either being incarcerated, going to jail. The crack epidemic caused crack babies all around the place, mothers. There's a bigger destruction than what people know it is. But my father was the first one in our family to say, we're gonna do something new. We're going to go above and beyond what's going on in our family. We're not going to prison anymore. We're not going to be bad boys in the neighborhood. So he got 5 boys and 2 girls, and he taught us all how to own homes, take care of our family. Family and faith is our foundation. So that's what he started.
So you learned everything from your father.
And my mom. Mm-hmm. My mom was evangelist Helen Newsom is a piece of work. She is a real, the church hat lady. If you see a lady that is the prototype for church ladies, that's her, right? The whole outfit, the whole get up, right? The big old hat. My father used to complain that he couldn't see anything at church because she had a big hat in front of him. So it was a combination. My mom is really responsible for a lot of my education. She was a school teacher, so she put me in every special class. I actually went to a middle school that was Philippa Schuyler Middle School for the Gifted and Talented. And then I started actually in marketing and communications in high school because I went to the High School of Graphic Communication Arts, which is what was then Hell's Kitchen. Now it's pretty famous, but back then that's where my high school, right down the street from Rockefeller Center. So we got a lot of live work as a young person. And started my first business when I was 14 doing graphic design.
So you was like born with a suitcase in your hand.
A briefcase.
A briefcase.
Let's get it together.
Same
Not a
thing, okay?
suitcase. A briefcase and a calculator. Thank you very much, because I had to count my money. How about
Right.
that? So yeah, 14, I made like $300 a week. I was a teenage father too. So a lot of things, when it came down to my kids, and raising them, in the brownstone, I made sure that I took care of them. So I was never an inactive father. So I made sure that I bought their diapers, paid for their daycare, did all those type of things. So I was a little man back then.
Right.
Well, Tiara met some of my high school classmates that she didn't believe me until she sat down with them. You did too. You
Yeah.
met some of my high school. They told you I
It
was.
was like he
I
carried
was the
that
same
thing
way.
everywhere on the train, in class.
The kids in the back.
So it's like you were destined to be this businessman and entrepreneur.
It's funny because my pastor, the late Dr. Robert E. Fowler Sr., said he saw that, like he was like, that is your destiny. It's pretty weird that as a kid that I already thought about business, thought about how to market. I read David Ogilvy's book, On Brand, when I was on the subway. Everybody else probably was on the subway goofing off. I was reading books because my ride to school was an hour and 15 minutes both ways, going back and forth from Brooklyn to Manhattan. So I read a lot, studied.
Yeah, so you had your babies, your books in
Yep.
that suitcase. I mean briefcase.
Briefcase,
Babies, books, and briefcases.
briefcase, and a Casio calculator. That I
Put
didn't,
that on live stream.
that's what I had. Everything, yeah.
So like being like what you've experienced and went through, like how do you apply on how to like raise your family with everything you learned from your parents?
Well, my parents, despite what people think, I know parents and the latchkey kids, they call us, that parents get a bad rap. I think that they get a bad rap on how they raise you. But my parents didn't have the same parental guidance that, we had. And you got to give some a little bit of grace to the people from the South because, they were, the Jim Crow South was not very kind. To put it lightly, to African Americans, like Jim Crow South was very, very brutal to them. So they dealt with a lot of trauma. Today, everybody's talking about trauma and mental health and all that. My parents that was passed down to them. So they had to deal with traumatics. And then on top of that, my father had to serve in Vietnam. And then he comes back to Bed-Stuy, do or die. So there's a lot of trauma that went along with those things. So what I did is looked at the trauma that they dealt with, understood what I had to deal with. I married the mother of my children in high school. Then this other one showed up next after I got married to her. When I got to Las Vegas, this my daughter. So Tiara showed up then, and then later on Terrence. So I had 4 kids, and then just really my thing is focus on someone who is something bigger than yourself, right? So for me as a father, always has been focus on them, and everything else can fall into place. Focus on them and where God has placed you on this planet. If you're a father, be the best father that you could possibly be. Don't make all the excuses that everybody makes. And for many years, most of my years in the Air Force, I became a single father with those 4 kids. And then later on met Arlene, and she had 4 boys, and we came together. And I was the same way. I told them, I'm not gonna try to replace their dads, but I'm gonna be me, right? So I'm gonna be the great father. If they want to step up, they can. If they don't, then they don't. But at the end of the day, I'm just gonna be me, and that's what I've been from day one.
Yeah, and I see you carry that attitude, that same energy into some new marketing, into your business and things like that. So I love that.
Well, yeah, we got to do something new. No, you got to do it. You got to do it the way. That's why some new is a culture. It's not necessarily a business or a slogan. It's not anything. I'm proud of what we've done from Newsome Marketing to Some New, because it all comes back to caring about someone other than yourself. Service before self was a core value in the Air Force, but that was something that we learned all the way through. And I got 6 younger siblings, and I believe that being an example for them and being an example for my kids and grandkids, and thanks to you now, great grandkids. Too young for that. Yeah,
Right.
but
I'm the oldest out of how many y'all got?
18.
50.
18 at least.
Okay, 18 is
Well, I
equivalent
lost
to
count,
50.
but you know, your nana says 18.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So, like, just get into, like, how did Something New even became a thought?
Well, I was on a cruise to Alaska. We had to ditch the kids for a little bit, so we went on a 7-day cruise. 8 kids. We left them at home with Uncle Vernon, right? We went on the cruise, and finally I got an opportunity. So let me just tell you, like, the years I was at Station Casinos, we probably built or bought or acquired 6 or 7 new casinos. We built this brand called the Station Casinos Boarding Pass Program. We expanded Texas Station, built Red Rock, built Green Valley, purchased Santa Fe. So I was busy, like I was crazy busy. Never really had days off. Worked through Christmas or different holidays. Still made time though. I never missed track meets, football games, all of those. So I was real busy. Arlene was very busy with food and beverage, and she ran buffets. So she had a big job too. So really the idea came when I was just sitting around and didn't have much to do at that time but think. And on the cruise, she asked the question like, "What do you want to do with all this? Are we going to stay at like this place forever?" So no, I got an idea that I want to start my own business. I see what they're doing. They built a business, a family business, and they were able to take their everything that they could do and infuse it into the family. They took Gorman from Maryland Parkway to build a new campus, and they built new campus at UNLV. I said, I want to do stuff like that. Like, I want to make that kind of impact. So that's what started the idea. Like, I wanted to do what they were doing.
Nice. And how long did it take you to, like, actually launch it and launch the business?
Well, it was after I resigned. It took me about 3 years, and it really was an intentional thing for me to do it 3 years. I really wanted to first do the research that was necessary. Like, what did I want my marketing firm to do, and what was really easy for me to do, and it be purposeful so that it has length. Because that's what I learned when I started studying entrepreneurs is the best entrepreneurs are the ones that are purposeful, and they look at the long term. They look at, even if you're going to sell it or whatever, they're looking at how to make it long term, how to make it sustainable, how to make it with growth for generations. Like I studied Walt Disney, and he never even got to see his dream come to fruition. I studied people like Sam Walton and with Walmart. So I studied all these different folks who were looking at generational wealth, or even where most people don't give credit is with Wendy's. You know, when you see how that brand had taken a life of its own, when Dave Thomas was actually one of the first colonels for Kentucky Fried Chicken, but he took the concept and ran with Wendy's, and now his daughter is, running the company. So I think that's when I started thinking about that. So I saw their process, and I started to do that. So it took me 3 years to, one, transform me from being a marketing executive to being an entrepreneur, understanding the entrepreneurial process, and then understanding how a business can be sustainable.
And I only ask that because I see a lot of businesses or people like wake up, oh, I want to start a business today, and just start throwing stuff out there, and they just think it's like fast money. But like you explained, like it's a long process that strategically was thought of, and you were thinking of the long term, which is the next generation.
Yeah, everybody thinks this is overnight success. Actually, overnight success takes about 10 to 15 years. Right? It's not, no, most people don't look at the back end of it like, oh, that's an overnight success. Either somebody has launched something like a Paris Hilton has launched it off of their family name, things like that. It doesn't happen overnight like that. And I saw that live and in person with the Fertitta family. Their dad started the business in 1976. When I got there, it was like 2006, 2007. So that was like almost 30 years. Wow, almost 30 years of work that was put in. But everybody's like, oh, wow, they blew up. No, they started in 1976. And then, when they bought the UFC, that blew up. So it's things that people don't realize what we go through. And I'm sure Mr. Fertitta, he went through a lot, and now his 4 kids owning and running the business, but they went through a lot.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So your ending goal was always generational, something I want to pass down to my kids?
Always, it was always a thought in my head. Even your brother, he kind of diverted in this MMA. He's doing this thing there, but he would remember. He's like 5 years old. What he used to say, he's like, "I'm going to be the next CEO of Newsom Marketing." So it was always implanted in that vein, that understanding. Like, in fact, as a matter of fact, one of the things that gave me the thought was we were doing great. Me and Arlene, I thought, were doing great with our kids. We had other kids that moved in. We had nephews and nieces that moved in and stuff like that. We were making great money, doing a great job, had a nice home, nice neighborhood, all that. But then when we had a grandchild, it was like, oh man, there's a whole different level to this, right? So that's when it really clicked in my head, like this generational thing really is going to mean something, and it is with the intent that my grandchildren can continue on and do many things, and not necessarily in marketing. It's just the mindset of entrepreneurship, the mindset of doing your best and doing something that could be generational.
Yeah, I like that because I get questions like, "Oh, did your grandfather did they force you to work for the company?" I'm like, "No."
I know, right?
Right. And like, with that being said, like, how many of you got 8 kids, so how many of how many of them like actually worked in the business or is taking on that entrepreneurship?
I think there was only two. There was Thomas and Tierra, right? So those two wanted to be a part of it. Thomas has always been like an entrepreneur. Like he's like since he was a kid, he did all kind of entrepreneurial things. He owned a business when he was in high school as well. So he had a very successful business in high school, and then of course he launched his brand later on. But he and Tierra were the two that were really interested in the business and the business aspect of it. So when it came down to it. The rest of them, now here's the funny thing, the one that I least expected that would actually be in the business, running the business would be Tierra, because that wasn't really her thing. Everybody else had these, my junior, Shondell, even LaSteph and even your dad, he had they have these opportunities, but she worked hard to transform into what she is today, because most of them it's a natural to them. I just say that, but it's really a natural to them, but it's not natural. She worked her way into this position.
So like, Tierra, like what sparked you to like show interest, like, oh, I want to follow my dad and see what this is about
In business ownership.
yeah
I mean, like Shondell said, well, first I was the only one that worked at Newsom.
Right.
I was the first intern. And so that was like my introduction into it. And I think seeds were being planted then. You have to plant seeds, like kind of what Shondell was alluding to, of like just putting that in your mind. I did know though at the time that I was going to go into the Air Force. Like Shondell was saying, I just was like, I'm just going to float for a little bit. I know I wanted to go to college, but I'm like one of 8 kids. I know there's no college money stored away. Somebody got to pay for this. So I went into the Air Force originally to go to school. And that got deferred a little bit. But I think when I was an intern, the seed was planted for sure.
Yeah, she quit Burger King.
I'm glad she did.
Thank you. I mean, that was hard. Fast food is hard work. So
No, the way you explain how you didn't make the burgers right.
I
You
made
did not
it.
even
No.
do that.
Don't be lying on me
I'm
like
just
that.
saying.
I made it how they showed me. Now, if you came through that drive-through talking about no onions, extra pickles, you're gonna get exactly. They had a picture of the Whopper in front of you when you make it, and that's what I did. I didn't have time for all that, so I knew I had to quit before they fired me. 3 weeks.
You was headed that way.
I sure was. 3 weeks. Yeah.
Like, how many other jobs did you have before you was like, okay, let me go with something new now?
My first job was when I was 14. I worked on a local campaign, and we did canvassing. We, the normal like door to door, ask people if they want a yard sign. It was great work too. I got paid $10 an hour at 14, and just in true fashion, like Shondell will always say, "You're like a little Shondella." Should have named you that. Thank God you did not. I saved all my money. Like I had it then where I was like, okay, this is gonna be great. Like, so I had worked political campaign. My second job was Burger King. I made it 3 weeks and I quit. And then I luckily got hired like that same week at Late Foot Locker. That was the best job ever. And then at the same time, when I was at Lady Foot Locker, I was at News and Marketing as an intern. And then right after that, I went into the Air Force. So I always tell the Some New team that I'm like, I haven't had many like jobs where I know how to go interview. And I mean, I did interview for all those jobs, but it was so long ago. So after the Air Force, during the Air Force, came into Some New and been here ever since.
Now you're the CEO.
Yes.
And now you got your own business.
Yes.
Phenomenal Mama as a doula.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I like how both of you have been in the military and you guys take what you've learned and apply it into Some New marketing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that, and I always share this with the Some New team, I'm like, every situation that you're in, you have to learn something. I've known people that when they left the military, they're so bitter and they're so disgruntled. And I mean, things happen. And if you had a horrible experience, you have to turn that into something that you want to do better, right? Like at Some New, we do our quarterly and annual feedbacks, and I'm like very adamant about that in training days because I had, when I first came into the Air Force, a horrific boss. Like she just kind of let me do me, and she set me up for failure big time. I didn't even know we were supposed to be doing quarterly feedbacks and things like that until I got to my next base, and they were like, who's this young airman that thinks she running stuff? Because she just kind of let me do my thing. So I always kept that experience in the back of my mind, like when I run my business, it's going to be different. And then the same with training. I felt like I didn't get the training that I was supposed to get all the time in the Air Force. And so, applied it to Some New. I think any situation, like even I learned from Burger King that I'm not meant for fast food. So, you got to learn from every situation you're in. Yeah,
absolutely. And I really appreciate you guys' lessons that you guys learned in life in general and apply it to Some New because the team, we all know and learn from both of you, including Carla too. Shout out to Carla.
Yes, I know, right?
And Arlene. And I appreciate it because, like, I've never worked nowhere else.
That's right. Yeah.
Nowhere.
Yeah.
Like, people laugh. They're like, where have you worked? Nowhere.
I know.
But Some New.
True. Yeah.
My first and only job. And I feel like that's a blessing in itself. Like, to say, oh, my family can employ me for how long I've been here? 8 years?
I don't know.
Yeah, 8 years. I got introduced at 14. I was doing the labels. I don't know what I was doing. Like,
same.
You
That's
don't
where
work
I started.
at an office at 14. You don't do that. And then I swear, I promise you, Shondell has asked me, you know where you are for like 4 years straight. So the first year he was asking me, do you know where you are? I'm like, yeah, I'm in Las Vegas. I'm here. I work. I'm at your business, And then he keeps asking me like each year, my answers improved. Okay. And like I finally he stopped asking me, so I guess I got it, right?
I feel like you got it.
I got it. Yeah, I know.
You're doing power moves, so you got it.
Yeah. Yes. So I definitely know where I am now. Like, this is like a huge movement. Like, I didn't see the vision. Of course, I was young when I first started, but
nobody sees the vision on his level.
Oh, no. He's like 20 years.
Vision and faith. I'm like, this is the king right here. Because I'm like,
and he be right all the time.
I know.
Like,
but you don't know until like 2 years later. Exactly. So that's a true visionary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, like I know where I am now. Like I'm in a very special, rare space. Like I'm super appreciative to say like, oh, my grandfather hired me on, and now here I am doing this podcast. I do a radio show for the company. So it's like I never thought it would come to this. Yeah. And I'm just super grateful. I love the team. We got a great team. I love the owners. I have no choice, but like
you have a choice.
But it's like it's not easy. Of course, people's like, "Oh, you work with your family? How is that?"
No, yeah, people do assume that they're easy on you. And like I said, I was the first intern, and I'm like, I can't catch a break. Like it's like being at home again. Only now you're in the professional setting. So yeah, it was tough.
Y'all was hard on me. Like when I was in high school started, I was a minute late, y'all. She stopped me at the door. She's like, "Go home." Turn around, go home. Yes.
Oh, Maya.
And then I had some ripped jeans. I just came from school.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not about to wear no business clothes to school. I just came from school.
Put some clothes in your backpack.
But I
Like
really,
you said, this is your first job, so we didn't want to
Yeah.
set you up for failure if you went somewhere else and you're like, oh, like I said with my first boss in the Air Force, she set me up for failure because I'm just like doing whatever. I'm telling you, I got a tattoo behind my ear, all kind of stuff, and I'm like, girl, why you ain't say nothing?
Right.
Like, then I got to my unit in Japan, and they were like, this airman needs to be polished. So
No, the
we didn't want to set you up for
visionary
failure.
was my dad, and I'll tell you.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why, and I need everybody to understand this, right? No matter where you are, you don't have to be there. Like a lot of people get stuck in where they are. And my father was big on Black history. He said, one, I do not want all the stereotypes that you've seen about Black people is wrong. You know, even this whole thug life and all of that, we don't live like that. Most of us don't live like that. Most of us are not disrespectful to women. Most of us are not trying to be angry and frustrated. Most Black men don't operate like that. So my dad used to get frustrated. He didn't like the vision that was going on in the neighborhoods, right? And really, 80% of Black households lack fathers. Their fathers are not in the home, not present. And I'm not saying that they like what people don't realize is like a father could be living with you and not be present. They're just there. They just happen to be in the building or something like that. My father didn't believe in that. He was like, you got to be actively involved, actively engaged. You got to be, and if he was, I could promise you, like if he was living right now, he'd be at this podcast.
Oh, yeah.
He would have jumped on a plane from New York,
I
but like,
was gonna say that earlier when you said like he wanted to be a present partner. I was like, low key, sometimes it was just his excuse to come to Vegas,
Right.
Because he like, oh, y'all having a big meeting? Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
be there.
I'll be there. But the crazy part about it, he didn't gamble or anything. He was at the office.
He literally wanted to go to
He wanted to
Applebee's
go
in the
to
office.
Applebee's in office, and he and the thing that he knew that he wanted something different because you know my grandparents, both sets of my grandparents grew up in the Jim Crow South. It was you know, they treated farm animals better than they treated Black people, and so that's what my father always said. We have to reclaim. Stop waiting for somebody to give you 40 acres and a mule. We have to reclaim our position in life and our position in this country. We built this country on the backs of slaves, but also Black people have been the igniter of all change, whether it was civil rights, whether it's the hip hop movement. Any of those things have been ignited by Black folks. And so, but everybody participates. It's so funny because people are talking about inclusion. We are the most inclusive people in the world.
most, yeah.
We've always been that way. That's how people were. That's why how Europeans and different people were able to come into Africa and take us, because we're very inclusive. We're very nice. Oh,
Very
come on
friendly,
in.
yeah.
You know what? I know you coming with those chains, but we cool with it. You know, come on and snatch us up and take us on this unwanted cruise, right? That's how we got captured. That's how, because Black people are really, really careful. You know, we're very much caring like that.
Yeah.
We care about people, even in slavery. They make jokes about it, but we took great care of people, their children, the masters. We took great care, and that's who we are naturally. So that's what my father always said, like, reclaim who you are, and that's all it is. Like, we're gonna reclaim who we are. We are who we are. This is not some made up thing. Everybody else is fake, right? And look, no shade on those folks who want to live that thug life and make their money and do all that. But that's not us. That's not that shouldn't define us as people. Our women shouldn't be defined by their bodies and having stuff hanging out and doing all that. That's my father was very, very adamant, very, very pissed off about how we were portraying our people.
Yeah.
So that's where the vision came from. We had to change that narrative.
Did I ever meet him
Yes.
when I was a baby?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. He came. Like she said, he came. Every excuse he had to come out.
Yeah. It's getting like every other month or sometimes.
Yeah. It's so funny because to be honest, I think my dad talked more to your dad than I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. He made those phone calls. I don't know how he did all that. He just was on top of his game.
And you guys talk about him so much and how much he impacted your life and how he was the one who basically set up something new today.
The culture definitely comes from him. The Black excellence,
Yeah.
the focus on culture. Like we've been everybody now jumping into Juneteenth. We've been doing Juneteenth from day one, like 4 months when we opened. And you know, shout out, like she said, to Carla. See, that's the other thing is like people like Carla and Arlene. They behind the scenes. They do a lot. Like Carla's the backbone of our operation. She's been the person that gave us kind of like I remember the first time She was, boy, they were all in their 20s, early 20s,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Carla was pregnant with Sinai, and she brought in this book. She said, here's a book I want you to use.
She isn't like freestyling, but
Yeah,
like a visionary. He's like, let's just do it. Just
Yeah,
get it done.
just get it
And then
done.
he would walk out and we're like, Carla, how are we going to do this? You know,
She gave me this book about this big.
Yeah,
She's like,
she did.
here's all your paperwork. I said, what's that? What's that for? She's like, all the stuff that you want to do. There's your license, here's your insurance, here's this.
All the
And
SOPs, yeah.
All the SOPs. She had all that stacked up. So she's like the one person that balances me out when it came to that stuff.
No, yeah.
I think it's amazing how we can still be in business working with each other with family, because y'all know that's hard. I know it's hard, but it's like y'all know how to take your hats off, be like, okay, I'm your grandpa speaking to you, get it together.
Yeah.
Or auntie, you could be like, okay, you could come to me as the CEO.
Yeah.
And then I just appreciate the balance that we have.
Because that's
And-
another misconception. People think that it's easy to be in business with your family. I'm like, I feel like it's the hardest. Like, with a stranger, I'm just going to approach it like, let's argue, let's duke it out. But with your family, you maybe approach it with a little care, even though you probably don't think so, or you don't feel that. But you do. You kind of consider, like, how am I going to say this? And then in my dynamic, what Carla left briefly, I'm like, oh, now it's my two parents. And I'm like, listen, I can't really compete with pillow talk. They might go home and be like, let's gang up on Tiara tomorrow so we can get our way. But that never really happened because Arlene's usually on my side. But that's hard too, because like you said, you don't know when to take the hat on or off to be like, and we had that conversation like a few years ago, Shondell and I, of like, sometimes you just have to have those moments where I'm like, I just want you to be my dad. I just want you to, let's just have a family moment. Like, let's have a family day versus, you know him. He will call you at 6 a.m. Y'all got to put y'all phone on Do Not Disturb like me. But to talk something new, and I'm like, no, first of all, good morning. I'm fine. Your grandkids are fine, so, yeah.
Well, it's